Hey, Pepin.
Yo, yo.
You know, I've been thinking a lot lately about how you're a pervert.
What?
You're perverted.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're definitely a huge pervert. You're one of the most perverted people I've ever met.
What? No, I'm not. Everyone else is perverted, not me, though.
Wait, what? No, Nate. I'm going to convince you over the course of this episode that you are, in fact, a pervert.
Just bring it.
Oh, we need to talk. Welcome back. So glad you guys could join us. I am here once again with my best friend, Nathan Pepin. How's it going, Pepin?
I'm not a pervert.
Glad to hear that you're doing well. I am as well. Thanks for asking.
I don't care about your feelings now.
So, Nathan, talk to me about how perverted you are.
See, that is a fallacy. You are trying to get me to admit to it by explaining how perverted I am, but I'm not going to do that because I am not perverted.
Okay, let's talk. So, if you see a butt, you're looking at it, right?
Well, it depends on what kind of butt, but yes, in general, yes.
You see what I mean?
But everyone looks at butts.
No, you're saying if there's a butt, you're looking at it.
So imagine this. Imagine you're in a classroom, right? Mm-hmm. And, you're just kind of minding your own business, and there's some plumber dude who's, kind of overweight, whatever, and he is fixing something in the classroom, and, just to the side. And the teacher's talking about something super fun, like chemistry. And then the plumber's just kind of bent over, and he's got the stereotypical plumber's crack.
Okay.
Like, no matter how much you don't want to look at that, you're going to look.
Is there enough crack for the whole class?
Yes.
Okay.
And girls will be looking at it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to be looking at it. The teacher will be looking at it as well. I mean, she'll act like she's trying not to, but...
I vehemently disagree.
You disagree?
Yes. Why would you be purposeful? Okay, so there's a difference, and I want to make this clear, between happening to notice it because he bangs on a pipe and you look over and you're like, oh man, there's a crack, and fucking staring it down until it's absorbed into your brain and it's all you can think.
So it's not that so it's not looking over. He's in your field of vision. Like, just looking straight forward at the teacher or the front of the classroom, you can see the crack in your peripherals. And just because of that, you're paying like attention this way, straight ahead, but you're still going to see that thing in your peripherals, and you're going to try not to pay attention to it, but you will.
I would prop up my hand on my face and put my elbow on the table so that I was propped up in a way that my head tilted just a little bit so it wasn't in my peripheral anymore, because I'm not a pervert like you.
See, exactly. That's what I would do as well. So there was a time back in high school when there was a girl named the Bagel Monster. Okay. And she was sitting next to me during class, and she had so much cleavage showing that I could see it like sitting next to her. Like, it was just kind of that bad. Mm-hmm. So what I decided to do was I had a hoodie on, I put my hood up, and then I kind of pulled the roll of strings, and that way I couldn't see it no more. That was my solution to that problem.
But it was all you could think about.
With it being there, it's like if you ever see like an old woman out in public and she's got like a whole bunch of cleavage or just a little bit of cleavage, like, you don't want to see that. You don't want to look at it. But if she's talking to you, it's like you're seeing it no matter what. Like, I don't want to see that. But if I could put my blinders up or something, that would be something I would do. But it's just like a chasm I fall into.
So let's say that I'm making a claim here that you're a pervert, and I think that you're kind of proving my point. You're taking what I'm saying and you're perversing it. You're changing it into something completely different, like a real pervert.
So no. Is that the definition of pervert? Perverting? Like perversing? What? Is that a word?
Yeah. No, that's definitely the definition. So the definition of perverts is to alter something from its original course, meaning, or state to a distortion or corruption of what was first intended. And I think that's pretty much the MO for every conversation we've ever had in our entire lives, is I make a claim and then you completely twist it in a way that it's no longer we're talking about the same thing.
So I would say I'm not perverting anything to do with boobs or butt crack or anything of that.
100% disagree.
Boobs and butt crack are 100% sexual.
Oh my God, Nathan.
There's no perversion going on there. And also, everyone else agrees it's all sexual. So the fact that we all look at boobs and butt crack is not bad.
Wait. Everyone else agrees with this. You're making a claim for all of humanity that they agree with you.
So even someone who's asexual, who is not into the boobs and butt crack, will agree that boobs and butt crack are sexual. Not that they're attracted to it, but they're sexual things. If they see a boob and butt crack, they're going to be like, okay, put that away, please.
I disagree. So a woman breastfeeding in public, to you, that's a sexual act.
So I'm not saying that a woman breastfeeding is sexual, right? Because that is an act, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to ask if the boobs are sexual, the boobs are sexual. Now, do they have a sexual context in this instance? No. So
it's not fair to make a blanket statement that something is something if there are contexts where it's not.
It can be both. Quantum mechanics.
I'm not disagreeing that there could be situations where it is sexual, but I'm saying that in general, to say that a thing is this specific thing all the time, and then to also say that in this instance it's not, is by in and of itself a fallacy.
Well, it's kind of talking about the act versus the thing. Like, are boobs sexual? Yes, they're also non-sexual in a way too, because they have a function beyond that. So breastfeeding is one of those functions.
Is that not the primary function?
Well, no. Well, you could say yes, but no, because this is where it gets kind of confusing. Because boobs, particularly, they have a function of feeding the child for breastfeeding. That's their primary function, but they also have a secondary function of being a sexual selector. So women with particular breasts, which are able to feed babies better or more, are important to males choosing. So that's something which is selected upon by the males or females or whatever. So it's both. It's never just one or the other. So like being fit and strong, that's a sexual selector because it's someone who is able to survive and kind of get by in the life. But it's also a selector for just general fitness and kind of just actually living.
But that's not necessarily true. Like maybe back in our monkey brain era, yes, that was the case. But I think that in 2018, with our super advanced brains and our ways of looking at things completely differently, we're able to circumnavigate the monkey brain and see things much differently. I don't think that huge breasts are attractive. I'm literally on the opposite end of the spectrum.
So the argument wouldn't be that huge breasts are attractive because it's not that the bigger the breast, the better, because that may not be true. It's more about the quality of the breast, I would say, or because there's a whole spectrum of different kind of breasts that might be better for nursing an infant, and the ones that might be not as good. So what tends not to be good are the ones which are kind of saggy, kind of more resembling older breasts, because older breasts are not able to feed the infant as well. Whereas breasts which are able to feed an infant, it could be small, big, large, whatever kind of shape and size. It doesn't quite matter. The measurements being made is, could this support an offspring? Could this support a child? And that's the sexual kind of a selector there.
I think for you to say that that in any way has a bearing to everybody is completely off base.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, but general statements.
That's what you always do is you take these general statements and you apply them liberally as if they apply to everything, and that's just not the case.
Well, everyone is a pervert, though.
Okay, please explain that, Nathan. You look very proud of yourself with that statement. I'm really excited to hear how everyone is a pervert.
Steve, you're a pervert.
Okay, explain.
So I think everyone's kind of perverted. It's just that we don't really admit it very much. I mean, it's kind of the theme with comedians is they talk about how everyone's kind of perverted in their own ways, and maybe we're perverted in different ways, but it's like we have these thoughts on the inside of ourselves that we don't let outside.
So my claim is that you are by nature perverted. Like you can't help. That's just how your brain works. Is you take something and you twist it into something else. You pervert everything as a filter in your brain. That's just natural for you.
I mean, isn't that true of everyone, though? I mean...
No, I think the majority of people take things as they understand them and try and reciprocate and try and hold a conversation that way. I think you take things as off base as humanly possible and to turn it into something else.
So
completely.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example. this conversation right now. I'm talking about you taking things and perverting them, and your response is to talk about how women's breasts being the right shape or size for feeding infants specifically is not perverted.
I mean, that's just kind of evolution.
Okay, I'm completely lost now as to where you're at, and you've proven my point.
Give me another example.
You give me an example about how you're not perverted.
You want me to prove a negative?
You give me a time that you didn't pervert something that we had a conversation about.
So there's a time where you said, I'm hungry. I want to order some pizza. I said, okay.
That's not even a true thing. That never happened.
You never got hungry and never said, I want to order a pizza.
I wouldn't say that.
Do you know how many pizzas you ordered at your old house?
A lot, but I never said I want to order a pizza. There's no way I ever said that. I think you're completely perverting everything that I've ever said.
Okay, well, let's come up with another example here. Hey, Nate, do you want to record our podcast? Yeah, sure.
You came up with a podcast idea.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, but then you said one time you want to record a podcast? I'm
Listen,
like, yeah, sure.
Listen to our pilot episode where you're the one convincing me that we need to record.
I thought you were the one that convinced me.
No, you were like, and if this is the best thing in the world, then we'll keep it. Because I was saying we're never going to release this shit because it's going to sound awful because I'm sick, I have no energy, I'm 100 miles away from you, and you were making the case that we should be putting it out.
You know, actually, that kind of sounds right. That kind of makes sense because, yeah, I was the one that was like, I should have been all about the audio, but I wasn't. So that's like out of character for me. So what's wrong with me?
I don't know.
Am I perverted?
You perverted your own mind.
Fuck.
You perverted your own perversion, so you were on track.
You know, that's a little scandalous.
Man, you really came full circle in that.
But as I was saying, everyone else is perverted too.
Okay.
In conversations I have with people just in general, like the conversation will always go from one thing to the other. Like you say one thing and people will purposely like misinterpret it. And it's kind of a way of just getting along socially, I think. But it's also like, you know, we all do it. Like there's certain things we want to talk about and there's certain things we don't want to talk about. So I might say something and maybe they're not interested in that. So then they latch onto one aspect of that. Like, maybe I was driving and some person was driving this Honda Civic and, you know, cut me off and I got super mad at them and flipped them off and so on and so forth. And they might not be interested in any of that conversation except for the Honda Civic. And they might say, oh, yeah, Honda Civic, I heard this nice car. I was actually thinking about getting one.
So I don't have that same issue. I think that for the most part, when I'm having a conversation with people, they don't like to pivot. So I think that's a symptom of you being perverted is that you have a way of framing things that makes other people switch around what they're saying altogether and change the conversation. I think the perversion, if you're always seeing perversion from other people, maybe it's within you.
Well, I'm not seeing it from other people. I'm seeing it from, actually I am, but it's from like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Okay, between the two of us on this show, how many times have I talked about a porn star having sex with an actress?
About 6 times.
And how many times have you talked about Dito Angel enough that I know her fucking name and I've never seen her before?
You haven't seen her before?
No.
Dude, like, you have your phone.
Dito Angel and Aubrey Plaza. Like, I know that's a fantasy of yours. Do you know any of my fantasies? I guarantee you don't.
Kristen Stewart and...
No. You're already wrong. So, do you see my point? You're a pervert. You're openly a pervert to everybody.
Well, no, not openly. I hide it pretty well in everyday life, which I don't think hide is the word, but you know, there's certain contexts where you can bring up this kind of stuff, which is like I think in this kind of open flowing conversation, I think you know, kind of bringing up sex is kind of fun and kind of engaging. I think sex is very interesting, so it's something I'm very open to discussing, but not in like a judgmental way necessarily. I kind of like exploring the topic like generally. Which is why I kind of liked having Jason on from Shit Happens When You Party Naked.
Okay, if there's anybody in this world that's a pervert, you just said his name. Fucking Jason Alme of Shit Happens When You Party Naked is the #1 pervert I've ever met in my life.
You know, when we had that one little meetup at the, where was it again? The
New Hampshire Audubon in Concord, New Hampshire for the podcast New Hampshire 2018 meetup.
Actually, the one prior to that. It wasn't a meetup exactly, but it was like the thing outside with all the beer.
Oh, okay. That was at the Bearded Sinners Club. We were at a brewery based in Nashua, New Hampshire, and we were doing a charity event.
Yeah, so at that event, Jason was there, and it's like we started talking, and then about a minute in, we started talking about porn. And he's like, I should have expected this to be us to be talking about this like a minute into the conversation, talking to you, Pepin. So you might have a point there, but that's something that Jason...
Wait. Jason Alme said that you're perverted. Wow, that says a lot, Nathan.
But I don't think this meets like the colloquial definition of pervert, though, because I think I would say I'm interested in sex and sexuality and kind of discussing those topics. I think I'm more open than most people. Like most people, you have to get them behind like closed doors. But with me, and also I've had many conversations with people where people have brought up different things. I don't know how many conversations I've had with female coworkers in the past where they started talking about the kind of porn they watch, which is kind of strange. I didn't bring it up at all because that's,
Doesn't that say more about you than anybody else?
The fact that they've brought up porn to me.
Yes, if you're the only one that has the experiences like this, that says more about you than anybody else.
I'm very open to discussing things. I don't judge people for that.
See, exactly my point.
Lack of judgment? That's a bad thing?
No, it's just perverted. Who says perversion's a bad thing?
I mean, the general kind of notion is that a pervert is someone who goes out of their way to kind of do these things. So,
it sounds like you.
Like Master Roshi.
What?
Master Roshi.
Okay.
Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Or Dragon Ball, rather. So Master Roshi is the guy who is, he's an old guy, but he gets really jacked sometimes. He does Kamehameha. He's who taught Goku how to do it. And
he invented the entire concept of it.
Exactly. So he just peeps on girls. Like, this is what he does. He, like, goes into, like, shower stalls and kind of looks through, like, the peepholes and stuff. And he's just constantly looking at porno magazines in public and all this kind of stuff. So that, I think, is the definition of a pervert. So someone who's... It's not that... I mean, they're very open about it, but they get caught all the time, and they're doing things which they shouldn't be doing. It's not meeting the social, like, acceptably standard, or it's not meeting any sort of standards or for social interactions. Whereas I think the other kind of thing, which is more what I am, is I think everyone else is this too. I think everyone's just kind of repressing it, or they're not honest about it, because I think this happens, if you go on the internet, everyone's like me.
Okay, the internet is fucking perverted as hell.
Yes.
So I think to say I'm just like everybody on the internet is disgusting. I think that the first thing you think when you see any woman is whether you would fuck her or not.
That's what everyone thinks.
I disagree.
No, okay, maybe not, heterosexual females or, gay men or, those kind of categories. But, I think generally people think that. And I'm judging this based off what I see on the internet, also what I see with comedians, and also just talking to people in general.
Okay, so your basis of reality is whatever's on the internet or whatever a comedian says.
So what a comedian says and what they get a reaction to, because what they get a reactions to are like hard truths, like kind of put into a comedic context. Like people laugh because they feel anxiety, and the anxiety gets released through laughter.
I have a whole theory about comedians that's completely... We're not going to get into that now, but
This is a rabbit hole.
the lowest basis I can put it on is that if you're in a setting where you're expected to laugh, people are going to laugh. If the same exact comedy set was put in in the wrong setting, people wouldn't laugh. I think that laughter begets laughter, and that's why a lot of jokes land that otherwise wouldn't land or aren't really that funny.
That actually has an interesting point, because there's a whole mathematical thing with that. But anyway, so I think there's some elements of that, but I also think that a lot of what successful comedians do is they get at like kind of the heart of humanity, which is Joe Rogan has a joke where it's like, what the first thing I think when I see a girl with glasses on? I wonder what it would look like if I came on those glasses.
And he's a pervert.
He is conducting the general zeitgeist of the internal lives of people.
I 100% disagree. I think that even if somebody is saying things as honestly as they possibly can, it's from their own distorted point of view, and is not necessarily an amalgamation of all of humanity, of all men, to say all men think that first. I just disagree from my own personal standpoint as myself as an example.
Well, I mean, anything when you say all men or anything like that, you can't make statements like those. And
you started this goddamn thing by making that statement.
I was trolling.
Oh, okay. Fucking pervert.
But but in general, like anything you talk about, you have to assume some sort of probability curve or some sort of normal distribution, because most people will fit into this thing, but some people won't, and some people will be extra, like Master Roshi kind of spectrum. So some people, they're not going to have any kind of reaction to this, and that's to be expected. Some people, they can withstand tons and tons of pain. Most people have a normal pain tolerance, and then other people have like no pain tolerance. Like, just a little touch on them, it's like, ow, that hurt. Mm-hmm. And same kind of thing with getting distracted and having a what do you call it? Like seeing anything of a sexual nature or anything that could be potentially seen as sexual, just kind of seeing that, or out of the ordinary, I would say. Because I think a lot of the thing I was talking about where you see like some ass crack hanging out and just looking at that, I think it's just something that's unusual. Like it's the same thing if there's like a fire out there, or maybe some tree fell down, or just anything just kind of unusual in the setting. You look at it and it's like, that's weird.
Nate, no. So I think you go out of your way to see situations such as an ass crack hanging out.
I don't.
I've seen differently.
How so?
There was that time that there was an ass crack and you were just standing there, pulled your dick out.
I don't think this is a real circumstance.
That wasn't a real one. That was a fake one.
No, I mean, there's a difference between maybe going on the internet and looking up things, because that's for public consumption usually. Like if you look for like porn, that's one thing if you're just in your own room. But if you are out in public and you're kind of looking out for that, that's kind of being Master Roshi, which I think is not very good. But if on the other, okay, so I think everyone's been through this experience from time to time. Maybe there's some really cute girl you see, and maybe you kind of like swing by to get a better look, but you don't do it creepily. You kind of do it just very kind of like nonchalantly, and you don't put too much attachment to it. But if you go all Master Roshi and you kind of like try to get the best angle by sitting down and under her skirt or something, that's definitely a bit too much.
Okay, that's undeniably a bit too much. But I think going out of your way in any capacity to get a better look is perverted.
I don't think it's perverted, because I think perverted is like on the other end of the spectrum.
I think that you're putting perverted way too far away, and because you don't want to be close to it, but really it's a lot closer to you than you want it to be.
Well, what I'm saying is, if it's a bad thing, so if you're looking at perversion as in bad, it's a negative aspect, then I'm not very close to that. But if perverted is in the sense that people are just kind of sexual and they seek out kind of sexual things, then I think it's all over the place, because just based off my interactions with people, I manage a staff of all females, and all of them went out of their ways to check out the cute guys through the drive-thru and check out the cute guys at the cash at the front. Mm-hmm. Like they all did that, and they told me stories about how they saw a cute guy and then they just wanted to see their ass or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like I've been around people enough to know this is how people act. And, maybe they're not open to it with certain people, but maybe they're more open with me. Maybe that's why I know about this. But
or maybe they're just trying to tell you what they think that you would want to hear, because that's how you would connect with them, and they're just trying to connect with you. So they're like, I know Nate is a fucking pervert, so I'm gonna say perverted things to him because then he'll like me.
Well, no, I don't think that. I mean, maybe there's a chance they're sucking up to me, but I don't think so in this way. Mm-hmm. I think more that if it's anything, they feel like they're the problem is, if you talk about any kind of sexual subject, if you're a female to a guy, that guy is gonna think that you're hitting on them. Mm-hmm. And you're not. You're just trying to just be an average person, just kind of voice your normal thoughts about I saw this guy who's really cute. He had a nice chest, and his jawline was super cool. I kind of want to suck his dick. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to voice a normal thought they're having. But if you say it to almost anybody, they're like, I have a dick you could suck. Mm-hmm. That's what they say. Have you seen Tinder?
No.
The stuff that happens on there is crazy.
But isn't that the point of there's certain places that that's what you're to expect. Like when you go on the internet, the culture you're to expect. Mm-hmm. But I think when you seek out specific cultures such as that, or you create those cultures in and of yourself, then that makes you a part of that culture. And if that culture is perverted, then it's perverted. I think that you as a culture...
Me as a culture?
You as a when somebody knows that they're going to be spending time with you, they know what to expect for the culture in general. They know what to expect from you. It's perversion.
I don't know, because if they know what to expect, then it's like not perversion, because it's kind of like it's a context. I mean, it's kind of just like.
So you're saying that Master Roshi, because you know he's perverted, he's not perverted?
Well, no, because he's interfacing with people who aren't entering into that context. Mm-hmm. Like, if you come into my own, let's say you come into my house right here,
yeah,
and you know who I am, you know what I'm like,
mm-hmm.
and then you experience what I'm like. You entered into that context. You entered into my house.
So if you go to Master Roshi's house, all of a sudden he's not perverted anymore.
I mean, you're entering into that context in the same way.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have the context of perversion.
So you're entering into the context. It's not perverted because perverted. So this is getting like into a semantic game, which is unfortunate.
It always does.
Because we keep flipping back and forth between perversion being bad and perversion being like normal.
No. I think you in your head are doing that.
Like
you're perverting the conversation in your own head. I've been on the same track the whole time.
See, this is another way you're using perversion, because you're using it in a sexual way, but also just like changing the subject.
Hey guys, gaslighting's a real thing, and this is how you do it like a professional. You've been learning. This has been Learning with Meader.
Also, I've been trolling a little bit here, and you can tell Meader's getting a little upset. So
I am absolutely so comfortable right now in this very hot room. There's dicks all over the wall.
They're very large dicks, though. But I don't go for the small ones.
Jesus Christ, Nathan. Have you ever noticed how everything looks like a dick or a vagina?
So I think this is one thing I really hate, because I've had conversations with art students, and they start going down that line, and they start talking to me about how like skyscrapers are like
they're fallacies.
They're phallic, and how like. Fallacies.
No, I think they're fake. I don't think they really exist.
But
they're illogical.
But they say that like skyscrapers are like, symbols of masculine male members and blah blah blah. It's a symbol of the patriarchy and so on and so forth. And it's like, not everything has to be a penis. Like they look at like certain like hardware, like hoses, and like that's a penis right there. Like I don't know why they're forcing this kind of male misogyny on me. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, it's why can't things be more like oval shaped, like a vagina? It's like, well, because you're putting this sexual kind of thing onto it. Like it's not actually there. Like if you look at a building and you say that looks like a penis, I mean, I guess you could like kind of squint your eyes a bit and say, yeah, it does, but it's not like it's designed to look like a penis.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'd like to introduce you to Damn You Diary,
a podcast that chronicles our epic attempts to squash bad karma
and tell you stories of our seemingly mundane lives.
You can find us at podcastnh.com
or on our website at damnyoudiary.com.
Cheers!
Remember that time in college when I made that exact argument against a teacher who was saying that every single thing was either a penis or a vagina?
Yep, that was for the book Iana, which is like some sort of, it's like one of the first books ever written or something like that, or that they can tell. And yeah, everything was a penis or a vagina. And
she was showing like pottery and like a whole bunch of things, and she's like, yeah, and that the whole purpose of that was a penis, and that one's a vagina, and that's a vagina with a penis in it.
Yep, and I think some of that's valid, because I think that cultures are very interested in sex. I mean, a lot of things we see are based around sex in these ways, but I don't think it was there to that extent that she was saying. Definitely not.
I think there's something with art there's whatever the original artist intent may have some. It may mean something, but what you get out of it means something as well. Like if you're seeing penises and vaginas everywhere, then that says more about you than it does about the artist. Unless the artist is literally drawing a cock.
It's like when I was talking to Chelsea, who was on our podcast about art a while ago. She was, I don't know if this is what recorded or not, but she made the point, or she shared her experience about being in art school and how there was just penises and vaginas just drawn everywhere. Like people dressed up as penises and vaginas a lot of times, but like they did it everywhere. Like it was just a whole penis and vagina campus. And if anyone's a pervert, I think they are definitely beyond me.
Okay, so it's Master Roshi, art students, Nathan Pepin. That is the perversion scale.
So let's put Jason Elme above me.
Okay, Jason Elme, Master Roshi. Art students, Nathan Pepin.
I just want one more to be between that. let's say, who's that guy? Pepe Le Pew.
Okay. Well, yeah, he was real gross.
So he's a level, I think, maybe below Master Roshi.
Okay.
But yeah, because he was just kind of romancing people in a way, very very. Okay, it was sexual harassment, but it wasn't the same as Master Roshi. Whereas Master Roshi is like invading people's privacy, like putting like peepholes in like showers and looking through them and stuff like that. He is just going ham with trying to get a girl. Like, he is super persistent. I mean, it's the comedy of it is that kind of persistence is taken to like a extreme level where it's kind of comedic. But if you look at it like realistically, like if you try to take it literally, it's definitely kind of sexual harassment, because she is definitely not into it.
Yeah. I hate those sexual harassment skunks.
This sounds like a transition or something, like a segue.
Listen, I have my thesis. I wrote it for my honors course in college. It's called Sexual Harassment Skunk. It's actually my... Oh, my God.
So I don't think I'm a pervert in a bad way. I think I'm like everyone else. I think I'm just more open to discussing sexuality and kind of sexual things and other people. I think people pick up on that sometimes. And
I think Master Roshi would say the same thing.
I'm
not a pervert. I'm just more open to talking about it. And who cares if I look at porn in public? Everyone does it. I'm just not ashamed. That's a Master Roshi argument.
I don't look at porn in public, number one. But number two, I don't have conversations around sexuality with most people. It's only with a select number of people, and these are people who usually bring it up first. And we usually have conversations, and I'm very good at respecting boundaries. Now, on this show, we're trying to not respect boundaries. We're trying to talk about anything and just be ourselves. And, if this is not a good conversation, like if bringing up sexual things was not appropriate, then we wouldn't bring it up, which is why it doesn't happen in most of our podcasts. But in podcasts where we have the right kind of people, i.e. Jason, it gets brought up because it can be expanded upon and it's not really judged.
Wait, is Chelsea a pervert?
I think she is, but she doesn't realize it because, like, she didn't seem, like, really opposed to, like, talking about dicks and vaginas, but she was not opposed in the sense of talking about in sense to art. If it's just talking about, like, hey, that's a nice rack, that's different than, man, these racks are so beautiful.
But every time we've ever seen a woman that you found attractive out in public, you've always made comments about their tits and ass to me. Afterwards, you've been like, oh, man, she had such a sweet butt. I would like that butt.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
That I'm a heterosexual male?
That you that you could have a full 30-minute conversation with a woman and walk away and be like, she had a great butt. It's all about the butt, and it's not about, her mind or her opinions or anything else. Her aptitude.
I think there would be more takeaways than that. In general, I don't think it's a realistic kind of context. If it's a 2-minute conversation, okay, maybe that's the takeaway. But if it's a 30-minute conversation, then that's probably not the takeaway.
That's the takeaway that you're expressing, and what we are as an individual is both what we have internally and what we put externally. But I put more weight on what's external because that's what exists in the universe. When we die, when we no longer have the internal who we are in our brain because we're dead, all that matters, all that exists anymore is what we've put out into the universe. And I think you have put out more perversion into the universe than non-perversion.
Like, I've thought about death a lot, and it's like, with like car crashes, like, what if we were just like driving and we got into a car crash and died? That'd be terrible.
It would be. And that's a really perverted thing for you to say. Because I'm trying to talk about who you are as an individual, and you turned it into dying in a car crash. I think we need to put up like a Facebook poll. Is Pepin a pervert? And that will be the facts. Like, that'll just be the answer, is whatever people say. If you want to be a part of this survey, if you will, of this voting period, is Pepin a pervert? Check us out on our Facebook page. Facebook.com/We Need to Talk Show.
I mean, we need like more options though. Is Pepin a pervert? Is Meader a pervert? Are we all perverts? I'm a pervert. Master Roshi's a pervert.
Okay, well, then you need to be able to select multiple options because those are not mutually exclusive. Is Master Roshi a pervert? Is Pepin a pervert? The answer is yes.
And we also have a Twitter. It's at twitter.com/WNTT1.
And of course, you can always find us on podcastnh.com.
And was that thing that we were doing talking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We should do more of that sometime.
Okay.
We need to talk?
Nailed it. Got it in one.
Hi, this is Joe from the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast, the podcast about a journey of discovery of trying to figure out what are we supposed to do in this world. You can find this podcast and many more podcasts like this over at podcastnh.com. And also, you can find this podcast on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcast and Google Podcast.
This time on We Need to Talk.
Help, help. Timmy fell down the well.
We're doing this again.
Same exact one.
Same exact one.
Help, help. Sandra fell down the shaft.
Fuck you, Sandra. You deserve that.
Oh, man. How dare you talk about my daughter that way?
Guitars, love, and freedom. More and more on this episode.
More and more on this episode.
Do dogs have ears?
Wait. Is your keyboard plugged into a Ethernet cable? You see how your keyboard has your Oxygen keyboard leaning up against the wall? You see how it has an Ethernet cable plugged into it? You're like, I'm going to direct wire my keyboard so I can surf the web with my keyboard.
I mean, I guess it kind of looks like that from a certain angle.
It's a musical keyboard. Okay.
I think you can actually do that, though. I think there are some protocols where you can like use Ethernet for that kind of stuff
That's wild.
if you want to. I don't think it's used, but I feel like I've seen it somewhere where instead of using USB cables or MIDI cables, you use Ethernet cables.
That's wild.
It's just data, though,
Yeah, but why would you want to do that?
because
It's no way that's more efficient.
they're cheap.
Like, yeah, and the USB isn't? I guess maybe in like 1997.
They also lock, so they by nature they lock into place.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little bit nicer. If
You
you're-
sold me. I'm going to only buy Ethernet from now on. Is there a USB to Ethernet switcher?
I think there is actually.
All right. Well, I'm going to buy 7 of them for all my USB uses.
You might have to have something that interfaces with it though.
A computer.
Okay, there we go.
Nailed it.